Hey.
How you doing? Good. How you doing?
Good.
It'd be good for me to check lofts and lies, make sure everything looks right, and see if there's anything we can fix along the way.
Perfect. Make sure they're dialed in.
Did you play this morning?
I did. Yeah. Played 9. Played the back.
How's the course?
It's good. It's got some firmness early in the week. You know, green's got a little bounce and some speed, obviously. And a little firm underneath. On the turf, kind of more than I was expecting.
More than you expected.
Yeah.
And I know there might be some rain later in the week. Does that change your thought process on how you equip for the week, or what do you?
No, I think it might change some of the shots that we did around the greens, but I think as far as setup and stuff like that, it's all really pretty much the same.
It's funny, like I always wonder, because I've not really spent a lot of time on the golf course. I've spent a lot of time on other courses. How different is this one in relation to just, your standard week-to-week tour event? I mean, what's preparation like? What are conditions like in relation to what you're used to, and how do you adapt?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big, I would say this week you're hitting so many more shots around the greens, to different pins. You're always hitting shots to different pins.
Yeah.
A little bit, but like this one, you're hitting so many different shots, different types of shots. There's so much slope and so much speed in the green that can firm, and there's so many different shots.
Is it grading?
It's so probably here like they talk about like mowing, when they mow the fairways, they mow it into you.
Yes.
Which is so like this is the only place that probably does that. And so it makes like, obviously it's in great shape, but it makes that contact that you feel like you have to be pretty perfect with the chips and the pitches and everything in order to like have that, spin, like, ball reacting and you want to.
Does it feel like you have to have more speed here than normal? Like spin-wise, excuse me?
I think you have to keep speed up. I don't know if it's necessarily more, but it's definitely a focus of mine. Like if I'm trying to put some spin on it, land it on the green and stop it.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thought process. Is keep the spin up so it doesn't kind of run up.
Yeah, keep the launch down.
Yeah.
So, is that something you typically would see here? Do you want to keep your flights lower than normal to keep the spin high?
Yeah, I don't like seeing it kind of ride up, like the feel. Like I'm very much like a field player, so like feeling it ride up the face and kind of it looks nice because it comes out high, but when it lands, it's kind of, it doesn't have that like snag, that spin that you're looking at.
So, of this setup, and we've changed some things over the years, and I've said this before a million times. You're probably one of the easiest players that we get to work with, which is great.
Yeah.
But I remember years ago you came to Oceanside and we had an opportunity to do some testing there and fit a little bit. And I remember you saying before that you're like, never really been fit for wedges in depth. Kind of run me through that process again. Like when you came out and we did some work together, what did you learn? What did we change?
What I liked a lot, what I took away from and I still use today is you asked me, why is your bounce the same on your sand wedge and your lob wedge? And I didn't have an answer for it. It was just, that's what I've used. As a kid, junior golf and college golf, it's just, I'm not one for change usually. And so like, if I know that it's working, I'm like, I'm gonna keep doing it. But there was no real no real reason to why I was doing it. And you made a great point. If you kind of give one maybe a little more, one that has a little less, it gives you more of a variety around the greens without having to really change too much other than just how the club reacts.
Now I remember we went, this one used to be an M, and then it switched to a 14F.
Yeah.
Because I remember you saying at Oceanside, you're like, sometimes I get I get to a shot where I have to open the face, and I don't feel like I can get it under the ball very easily.
Yeah.
And so you changed.
I would see too much of the heel, like I could see too much of the hosel almost. It just felt like I couldn't just really cut the legs off of it.
Are you still in X-Ball?
Yeah.
How important is it to find a ball that spins appropriately off? I mean, obviously we know we have the good spin numbers here, but especially with wedge play, where we know this is one of those courses that, you've got to be really precise with your wedges at distances, but really around the greens when you know those greens could take your ball anywhere.
Yeah.
How important is it to have spin?
Yeah, I mean, spin controls is key through the bag, obviously, but honestly, when I'm testing golf balls, I start around the greens anyways, just because that's where I care about having that spin the most.
So you work backwards.
I work backwards usually, which I like to know if that's the norm or not.
A little
But that's
biased.
that's kind of how I've always done it. I mean, I like having the golf ball that I already know is going to spin, and it just makes it easier for me to control.
I guess what sort of shots are you and your caddy Aaron, like what kind of shots are you looking for? What are really important wedge shots around this golf course? Maybe specifically a few holes that you guys look at where you're like, this is one of those weird green complexes where I know I have to hit this style of shot, or maybe there's a type of shot that really responds well here.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously your wedge holes around here. Obviously, you've got par fives, which you can either go for, or you're laying it up to a good number. The one that comes to mind first is 3. Good, like short par 4. Trying to figure out where we want to lay it up. In the past, we've laid it way back and had more of like a pitching wedge, almost like a 9-iron to those Sunday pins, and there's not a ton of green to work with there. So we've figured not hitting it all the way up there with driver, but kind of an aggressive layup to where we're more like 100 yards, and from there we feel like we can hit a 56 that we can land in that circle, and it's going to might take a little bit of a hop, but then we've got the spin to sort of almost bring it back to the hole.
Yeah. Aaron, come here. Come in here. I'm glad you're here because I have a lot of questions for you. So you guys have been together for how long?
Almost coming up on 7 years, I think. It's
Yeah.
like May of 2018.
Really?
Yeah.
Aaron, how important is it to know what all these clubs do? I mean, for your player, like what you probably have to take a lot of notes and pay a lot of attention to certain things that he responds to, or maybe it's yardages where you're like, hey, I know this is my guy's 5-iron.
People ask me all the time about his, like, I got asked today about the bounce on his live wedge, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, he knows. You know. That's not my job. But, like, I know how far it'll go.
Yeah.
I know how far he can make it go, and, like, all the clubs and shafts and stuff. Like, I don't, people ask me what kind of drivers you get. I don't know. I know it carries about 290, 290. Yeah. Titleist.
That's the only answer that matters here.
When you guys get up to a green, is there a lie or a situation where you know right away you're like, this is your sand wedge, and your hand's already on it, and you're like, here you go? Or do you guys actually go up there and look at the lie and assess what's going on before you even think about pulling a club?
You're always like obviously looking at the lie, and I mean, even if it looks like the most basic chip, one that you might be thinking about making, you could have kind of a sketchy lie somewhere, and it might be sitting down, it might be into the grain that makes it a little tricky, and that's kind of like going back to what we were talking about with the change in the bounce. Having something with a little bit less bounce, to me, like gives it more of a chance to dig when there's some grain, and I might look more into something that's got some more bounce, and I know that I can trust. I can even on a shorter shot, I can hit it how I want. It's going to react how I want on the face, the contact, and once it's on the green.
So you've created some balance, right? You've got one wedge that has some bounce and one that has very little, and you can pick and choose which
Just
one
feels like I
works
can
out at
use-
that time.
Yeah, and I feel very comfortable with most shots being able to use either club, and so I can kind of go to a shot and say, okay, I can use a 60 here, and sort of I might trap it a little bit if I want it to tumble, but just it's very lie dependent. I might be looking at the lie and say, it's sitting perfect. I'm going to use a 60 and bump it down there. It might be sitting not so great. It might be more grainy looking. Then I'm going to go 56 with a little more bounce and give me that sort of tighter window for a mistake if I don't hit it perfect. Yeah.
I'm not too involved in the decisions around the greens. I mean, he's one of the best in the world at chipping the ball, so why does he need to ask me, who puts everything around every green when I play golf?
I'm sure he leans on you more than you think.
Yeah.
He occasionally asks me what I think, what kind of shot, if he should bump something or try to fly it on the green. He'll say, "You think I can stop it if I, really nip the 60? Do I have enough room?" Stuff like that. But
So that's part of your
Try
homework
that.
this week is getting on the course and being like, okay,
Yeah.
this is his number for the 50 or the sand wedge. And I mean, I'm sure you guys will intentionally be shooting for those locations during tournament play, right?
Yeah, and not only that, like around here, you're trying to kind of find some angles too. Here, like we were talking about, we played the back nine today, and 15. If we have to lay it up, or if we don't really have a good number to go for it, then we're going to lay it up. And the layup, you're not only trying to get it to a perfect number, but we're trying to push it up the left side or up the right side, because that small change in angle, you're landing your wedge shot, your next shot, off of a downslope. it's either landing on kind of a side slope, or if you kind of push it up the left side, it's landing more into the slope, which will help it sort of stop.
Yeah.
So little things like that where we're kind of.
I love it. So a lucky JT Poston fan, maybe an Aaron Flener fan, is going to score a wedge from us,
Okay.
but you get to decide what to stamp on the back.
Okay.
What do you think? What would you want to put on there?
My nickname is Postman out here. It's on the bag, I believe. So I know in the past we've done some cool, postage stamps on my wedges. So I'm thinking something like that, like some sort of postage stamp for the lucky winner, and they can feel free to use it, but hopefully they don't lose it.
I love it.
Go to Titleist Instagram, enter to win.
And some Pro V1Xs. Go to Titleist Instagram to enter.